4 young men are still unidentified, 46 years later. Their families might be watching this right now and not even know it. December 11, 1978. Robert Piest told his mother he'd be home in 20 minutes. She never saw him alive again. What happened in this house would expose the deadliest systemic failure in American criminal justice history. But before we talk about the killer everyone knows, we need to talk about the 33 victims most people have forgotten. This is their story, and it's not over. Before we begin, a word about the story you're about to hear. This is not entertainment drawn from tragedy. This is memory as responsibility, an examination of how systems failed, how victims were overlooked, and how 33 families had their worlds shattered. The young men and boys at the center of this story deserve to be remembered as whole people, not statistics. What follows is difficult, but understanding how this happened and why it was allowed to continue matters. December 1978, suburban Chicago in winter, streetlights catching early snow, the crunch of ice under tires. At the Piest home, dinner was getting cold. Robert Piest, 15 years old, working part-time at a pharmacy, saving for a future. He'd said something about a construction job, extra money. He should have been home by now. What his mother did next would expose a 6-year killing spree. But first, you need to understand how a convicted sex offender was living freely in this neighborhood, and why nobody knew. Stay with me. This gets worse before it makes sense. Norwood Park Township. Neighbors knew each other. Trust was currency. The man Robert went to see ran a construction business, PDM Contractors. He volunteered as a clown for children's hospitals, performed as Pogo the Clown. A divorced father, civic-minded, seemingly reformed. In the 1970s, sealed records and weak interstate systems meant fresh starts, sometimes redemptive, sometimes catastrophic. Lieutenant Joseph Kozenchak felt something was wrong. He began to dig, methodically, piece by piece. The man had a record. Iowa, 1968, sexual offenses involving teenage boys. And there were other disappearances, construction workers, runaways. So that's who the neighbors saw. Now let me show you what the investigators found when they finally looked closer. And I need to prepare you. This is where the scale becomes clear. 8213 West Summerdale Avenue looked like every other house on the block. Pause. That was the point. On December 21st, 1978, police crossed its threshold. What they found would rewrite the boundaries of comprehension. The investigators who crossed the threshold of this ordinary suburban home were about to discover something that would redefine the limits of human evil hidden in plain sight. There are moments that divide time into before and after. For these investigators, this was one of them. They uncovered 26 bodies beneath the crawl space, 3 elsewhere on the property, 4 in the Des Plaines River, 33 in total. But the story wasn't only about horror. It was about how systems failed. 1968, Waterloo, Iowa. He'd served 18 months of a 10-year sentence for sexual assault, then was paroled. Records sealed. No national database. Who disappeared? Runaways. Young men from troubled homes. Gay youth in an era of stigma. Invisible ones. Homophobia. Disbelief of male victims. Lack of interagency coordination. All created blind spots. This isn't about assigning blame. It's about understanding how vulnerability becomes systemic. Here's where the story gets even more disturbing. Some victims survived. They reported what happened. They gave names, addresses, descriptions, and nothing happened. Robert Donnelly reported his assault in 1977. Jeffrey Rignall in 1978. Both dismissed until Robert Piest's mother refused to stop asking questions. Vigils formed. Families realized the unimaginable truth. 33 futures erased. Early 1980. Cook County Courthouse. The defense didn't deny the killings. They argued insanity. Could someone sane do this? Experts debated dissociation versus calculation. The prosecution showed planning, handcuff tricks, concealment, a functioning business, social performance. The courtroom became a stage for deeper questions. Can someone compartmentalize so completely they seem two people? Or is that control itself part of the manipulation? Evidence suggested the latter. Predators exploit trust infrastructures, employment, community service, small authority roles. 6 years, 33 victims, 0 databases connecting the cases. The jury found consciousness of wrongdoing. 33 guilty verdicts, death sentences for eligible counts. Justice as accounting, naming each stolen future. May 10, 1994. 14 years from conviction to execution. Families waited, appeals, delays, shifting stories. Gacy alternately confessed and denied, manipulating attention even behind bars. Those narratives serve no one. Meanwhile, investigators kept working, identifying remains, returning names. Each identification, a small victory against erasure. 4 victims remain unidentified. The search continues. DNA advances. Commitment persists. From horror came determination. Law enforcement reformed. Databases, coordination, victim advocacy. Victims' rights movements rose. Families demanded voice. The guilty verdicts were just the beginning. For 14 years, families waited as appeals dragged on. And while they waited, investigators were still making discoveries about the case, including 4 victims whose names we still don't know. That's where you come in. Before we close, we need to speak their names. Robert Piest, John Butkovich, Samuel Stapleton, Timothy Jack McCoy, Daryl Sampson. 29 we know. 4 still unknown. They were sons, brothers, friends, with dreams, jokes, futures. The house at 8213 West Summerdale was demolished in 1979, but memory remains. Gacy's name endures as shorthand for evil. But infamy isn't the lesson. Responsibility is. See the vulnerable. Question systems that fail. Name the dead. Honor them as people. Compare that to how we handle missing person cases today. Databases, alerts, coordination born from tragedies like this. 33 futures were stolen. Preventing 34 remains our work. Memory isn't just backward-looking. Done right, it guides how we move forward. If this case has affected you, resources are available. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, RAIN, and the Cook County Sheriff's Office, still working to identify the remaining victims. Before you go, this story isn't finished. 4 young men are still unidentified. If you know someone who went missing in the Chicago area between 1972 and 1978, the Cook County Sheriff's Office wants to hear from you. Contact info is in the description. And if this approach to true crime, focusing on victims, systems, and lessons, is something you want to see more of, let me know in the comments. What case should I cover next? Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need to hear them most. Thank you for watching with respect.